Recognizing wealth over debt. People believe they can recognize wealth when they see it. A large house, a luxury car, designer clothing, the newest phone, expensive vacations. These symbols are everywhere in movies, advertisements, and social media. They shape how we imagine success, but in reality, many of the things we associate with wealth are actually purchased with debt. This means that what we are often looking at is not wealth at all, but borrowed money dressed up to look like prosperity. To understand how this confusion happens, we need to start with a simple but powerful distinction. Income is not wealth. Income is money that flows in. Wealth is what you keep. Financial education resources like Investopedia define wealth as the total value of assets you own minus the liabilities you owe. In other words, real wealth is measured by net worth, not by salary or lifestyle. This idea has been explored by economists, journalists, and financial educators for decades. The Cato Institute explains that people often mistake high earnings for financial security. However, someone earning a large salary can still be deeply in debt. A person making six figures but spending all of it, or more than all of it, is not building wealth. They are simply managing a larger flow of money while standing on a financial cliff. This is what Robert Kiyosaki calls the rat race. Think about two people. One earns $80,000 a year and lives modestly, invests consistently, and carries little or no debt. The other earns $150,000, but finances a luxury car, a large home, expensive gadgets, and frequent travel. From the outside, the second person looks richer, but on paper, the first person may actually be wealthier because their assets exceed their liabilities. This idea became widely popular through the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. In the book, Kiyosaki describes how his highly educated biological father had a strong income but struggled financially, while his friend's father built lasting wealth. One of the core lessons repeated throughout the book is that many people buy liabilities they think are assets, such as expensive homes or cars, while the wealthy focus on acquiring assets that generate income. Whether or not you agree with all of Kiyosaki's advice, the distinction he emphasizes mirrors what economists and financial planners have long said. Assets put money into your pocket. Liabilities take money out. Debt used to purchase liabilities does not create wealth. It creates the illusion of wealth. Debt itself is not inherently bad. Educational resources like Khan Academy explain that there is such a thing as good debt and bad debt. Good debt is typically used to acquire something that may increase in value or generate income, such as education, a business, or certain real estate investments. Bad debt is usually associated with consumption, borrowing money to buy items that lose value over time, like luxury cars or expensive electronics. But this is where confusion deepens. Even when people understand the concept of good debt versus bad debt, they still tend to associate visible consumption with success. This is partly because debt allows people to move consumption forward in time. Instead of saving for years, someone can instantly display a higher standard of living by borrowing. The New York Times has reported extensively on consumer debt and the cultural pressures that encourage people to spend beyond their means. Easy access to credit cards, auto loans, and buy now, pay later services has made it easier than ever to construct a lifestyle that appears wealthy while being financed almost entirely by future income. This creates a society where appearances become a poor indicator of financial reality. Most people do not fall into this trap because they are reckless. They fall into it because they are responding to powerful social signals. Humans are deeply influenced by what others around them appear to be doing. For example, when everyone in your peer group is upgrading their car, moving into larger homes, and posting pictures from expensive vacations, it creates pressure to keep up, even if doing so requires debt. Economists sometimes refer to this as conspicuous consumption, a term introduced by Thorstein Veblen. It describes spending money not just to enjoy goods and services, but to signal status and success to others. In a credit-driven economy, conspicuous consumption becomes more dangerous because people can signal wealth long before they actually have it. Let's break down why debt can so easily be mistaken for wealth. First, debt increases purchasing power in the present. If you earn $50,000 a year but can borrow another $20,000, You can spend as if you make $70,000. Second, the cost of debt is often hidden or delayed. Monthly payments make large purchases feel manageable, even when the total cost is much higher due to interest. Third, society rewards visible consumption more than invisible financial discipline. No one sees your investment account when you walk into a room, but everyone sees your car. Imagine two balance sheets. On one, you see a modest car, a small apartment, and a growing investment portfolio. On the other, you see a luxury SUV, a large house, and very little savings. To a casual observer, the second person looks richer, but when you subtract liabilities from assets, the first person may have a higher net worth. This is the core reality behind the phrase confusing debt for wealth. This confusion has real consequences. High levels of personal debt make individuals more vulnerable to economic shocks. A job loss, medical emergency, or recession can quickly turn manageable debt into a crisis. Without savings or investments to fall back on, people who appear wealthy can find themselves financially fragile. Financial literacy organizations and economists consistently emphasize the importance of focusing on net worth rather than lifestyle. Investopedia explains that net worth provides a clearer picture of financial health because it accounts for both what you own and what you owe. Economic analyses from institutions like the Federal Reserve show that households with lower debt relative to assets tend to have greater long-term stability. There is also a psychological dimension to debt-fueled lifestyles. Research in behavioral economics shows that people often experience short-term happiness from purchases, but quickly adapt to them, a phenomenon known as the hedonic treadmill. This means that the expensive car or luxury apartment that once felt exciting soon becomes normal, leading people to chase even more consumption while debt quietly accumulates. So how can someone avoid confusing debt for wealth in their own life? The first step is shifting how success is measured. Instead of asking, "What do I own?" a better question is, "What do I actually own free and clear?" Another useful question is, if my income stopped tomorrow, how long could I maintain my current lifestyle? Building real wealth typically involves three consistent habits: spending less than you earn, investing the difference in assets that appreciate or generate income, and being cautious about taking on debt that does not contribute to long-term financial growth. These principles are not flashy, and they rarely look impressive, but they are consistently supported by economic research. It is also important to recognize that wealth building is a slow process. The culture of instant gratification makes it feel as though success should be visible immediately. But most financially secure households reach that point through years or decades of steady saving and investing, not through sudden leaps fueled by borrowing. In many ways, the confusion between debt and wealth reflects deeper societal values. We live in a world where image travels faster than information. A photo of a new car or luxury vacation can be shared instantly, but a balance sheet showing rising investments and falling liabilities is private and rarely celebrated. This encourages people to prioritize looking wealthy over becoming wealthy. Understanding the difference between debt and wealth does not require advanced economics. It comes down to a few clear ideas. Wealth is what you own minus what you owe. Debt can be a useful tool, but it is still an obligation that must be repaid. And appearances, especially in a credit-driven society, can be misleading. The next time you see symbols of success like luxury cars, large homes, or designer brands, remember that these things tell you very little about a person's financial reality. True wealth is often quiet, hidden in investments, savings, and fully owned assets. It does not always look impressive from the outside, but it provides something far more valuable than status: security, freedom, and control over your future.